Welcome to another episode of the Thrivers Ed podcast. I am so excited today because we have Dr. LaChelle Wieme with us here. Dr. LaChelle is passionate about helping people unlock their full potential. For over 15 years, she's been connecting with audiences as a motivational speaker, and for the past 6 years, she's also had the privilege of guiding individuals and organizations through her coaching and business consulting practice. Now, whether it's on stage or working one on one with clients, she loves empowering people to achieve greater impact and income. Now, her unique approach, it centers around fostering clarity, courage, confidence, and consistency. And these are the essential ingredients for sustainable success. This passion has also led her to create the Spiral Up podcast, where she explores these themes in greater depth. And through her consulting firm, I Am Life by Design, she partners with entrepreneurs and businesses to help them thrive. LaChelle, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, Marcy. I've been so looking forward to our conversation and I cannot wait to dive into something that we both agree is like super, super impactful when it comes to the success and giving entrepreneurs an edge, right? In what it is they're doing. So yeah, I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, me too. I'm just your whole intro. I'm like, yes, I could have written this. This is exactly like me. But what I love about having you on the show today is that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything. And so I'm really interested to hear your perspective.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm particularly interested because you and I have a very similar past in that this was not where we started, right? We've had different
yeah,
paths. I've done a bunch of different things.
yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but you're coming to this from the world of anesthesia. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, totally. By accident and divine appointment. So that's kind of what I'm going to say, right? Like I bring this spiritual flavor into what I do because I just cannot possibly think that any of this is coincidence. So long story short, I had a degree in anesthesia. I became a nurse anesthetist, nurse anesthesiologist, and ultimately professor for a doctor of nurse anesthesia program, literally climbing that corporate ladder, doing all the things that I had set out to do. And I got to just tell you that I thought that I was happy. That's what I want to say. Okay. And when the first opportunity for me to have a business in the online space was presented to me, it seemed like the complete craziest wackadoo idea possible because I was self-proclaimed like awkward introvert. I had 200 friends on Facebook. If you didn't, I was afraid to share anything. I didn't know what I was doing. I was terrified of sales, all of those things, but something intrigued me enough to be like, I wonder what this could look like. It was almost like this curiosity of an excitement of like, okay, I wonder what this could look like, right? So I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna build this online business alongside my crazy life of being a mom of two, husband, the whole works, and being a professor and doing anesthesia, I'm like, this is crazy. I had no business starting a business, right? But what it did for me was it unlocked something that I would call the and life, meaning that I recognized that there was something out there that could give me the life of fulfillment and challenge and helping people and allow me to be a more present mom and wife. You see, I didn't even realize that I was as unhappy as I was until I saw something different. And I recognized like, holy crap, like I am literally the mom who tears into the daycare parking lot at 5:59, hoping that I get there in time to get charged, right? And or did not get charged. And it was just like, wait a minute, this is not the life that I wanted. And I realized that in my own, like, I'm gonna get deep here. I'm gonna get vulnerable with you guys. But like I realized that yes, I had all these degrees. I had my master's and my doctorate and I was doing all these things. I was still chasing all this stuff, right? And I'm like, huh, isn't this interesting that I keep chasing at the expense of being the mom and wife that I wanted to be? And I realized that my motivation deep down in my professional life was honestly to chase my worthiness. Once I had this degree, then I would be good enough. Once I had this title, then I would be good enough. Once I did this, then I would be good enough. And then while I was in those spaces, I wanted to make sure that I was keeping up with everybody else or that I was perceived as dedicated as everybody else, right? And I'm just like, hold tight. Like, none of this is where I wanted to be. And it was really bringing myself into this entrepreneurial space and recognizing that I can have life that creates both
Mhm.
if I'm willing to just get out of my own stinking way and deep dive into the crap that's been holding me back up till now and really see what's possible. And if I'm going to do this, I want to do it well. And I went on this massive self-improvement journey that helped me to discover that, holy crap, worthiness was what was driving my ambition.
Mhm.
Yes, it was impact, but that was kind of crap a little bit, honestly, because it was me trying to prove my worth to myself. And so now it's like I get to show up in a way that is so different. My energy is like I get to be like the most powerful person that I can be to help other people succeed. And I get to be present at home. And I think that, like, in your introduction, you highlighted this. Like, I want other people to feel like they've become and experience their best self because I didn't realize that I was really holding myself back and that I didn't realize how small I was living and I didn't realize what was possible for me once I stopped getting in my own way and once I was open to start making some of the decisions that scared the crap out of me and allowed myself to fail because gosh, like I'd never gotten a B in my life. Like I was so terrified of not being perfect that I never posted on Facebook because good gracious, like if somebody judged me or wasn't my friend anymore, then God forbid, right? So just all this crap that started to come up as this revelation and realizing that as I started to grow within myself, I realized what I was capable of. And my life is beyond anything I could have planned for myself had I stayed in the box that I had created for myself, if that makes any sense. And in 2022, I left my full-time anesthesia career. Now I still go back and I actually help my hometown hospital out a couple days a month because I still love the skill set, but I get to show up when I can and when I want to and how long I want to and the rest of the time I'm traveling the world and I'm spending time with my kids and it was all of the crap that I had to deal with underneath the hood to help me make those decisions that are going to take me to the place beyond anything I could have planned for. And that's one of the things that you and I, are gonna get to talk to you a little bit about this because it's oftentimes, Marcy, don't you agree? Like, it's not that we don't know what to do, because that's kind of crap. Like, a lot of times we do know what we want to do, but we're just too afraid to do it, right?
Yeah,
Or there's something stuck inside of us that's preventing us from doing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that I think a lot of times there's like a catalyst moment, right?
Mhm.
So you were saying in the beginning that in your career originally you thought you were happy. And my problem was I was never happy. I just kept moving thinking that next thing's going to solve the problem. And what
Mhm.
really changed things for me is when I actually quit drinking, I realized I was playing small. Like I was trying
Mhm.
to numb the discomfort instead of being like, why
Yes.
am I uncomfortable? And then how do I go
Yes.
and change it?
Yes.
So, and you also said that you found yourself kind of putting yourself in that box and playing small. Was there a similar catalyst moment or thought or decision
Yeah,
where you're like, oh,
totally.
wait, I actually am
Mhm.
not so happy. This could be different?
Yeah. And I want to just pinpoint on this, you guys, because I have goosebumps when you said that, Marcy, because I think that like that aha for you shows up in different ways for a lot of us. So for me, it's been busyness. So rather than drinking, I would just get myself super busy all the time to in order for me not to have to dress or feel or any of this stuff, right? So whatever that case may be, I'm just going to challenge all of you guys to be like, hold tight. Like, where am I avoiding this crap, right? But for me, it was literally like after I started my business and after I had to start to do personal development to get myself to a point where this could be successful, things started to open up and I started to see things that I didn't see before. And now all of a sudden I felt stifled and I felt like I was in a box. And I'm going to give you an example of kind of my big aha moment that happened. So I was a recipient of an International Leadership Award, and the award ceremony was going to be in London. I live in Minnesota in the United States. And so I could not get time off from work to attend the ceremony. Super bummed. I've never been to London. Like, I'm getting this beautiful award. I wanted to go. They're like, it was a hard no, right? So then they were willing to make concessions for me and they're like, hey, you can certainly accept this over Zoom. Like we're fine with that. So I went and got the sparkly dress, did all the things, but unfortunately the time difference was 6 p.m. in London was 1 p.m. my time, which meant I was still going to be in the operating room. Tried to get a half day PTO, had tried to get all the things, hard no. And I was crushed. Like I ended up getting home just in time because a lot of my colleagues like rallied to like fill in for me, but it was a unnecessarily stressful situation. And then just like a week later, here I was sitting in my workroom and I was putting in my vacation pics for a year and a half in advance. I was one of 230, no, 265 like fellow nurse anesthesiologists that were vying for the same PTO spots. No guarantee any of this is going to get approved. No hope for these last minute schedule changes that I know are going to continue to happen as I grow and evolve. And I just realized I'm like, there's no way I can do this for 10 more years when I would technically be benefit eligible to retire. I'm like, there's no freaking way I can do this. I cannot do this another, I can't. And it was like that decision allowed for me to be open to possibilities and open to solutions, right? So what happened then, if I can continue the story,
Yeah.
I just happened to be heading to a friend of mine's lake cabin and we were chatting over coffee and she's like, have you ever thought about just doing anesthesia for small town hospitals on the weekends? That way you can still like bring in this safety net of income, but do your own thing. And I'm like, I'd never thought about it. Got back home, looked online, and sure enough, like there was a spot in my hometown that needed help. And so I'm like, okay. And it was so unbelievable because the once I like allowed myself to see a different solution, all of a sudden my energy was in alignment with all of these solutions, right? And so like they didn't even interview me. They just hired me. My husband, who's super, super like Mr. Stability, non-risk taker, like hard nose, was all of a sudden like, sure. And it felt like the Red Sea parted. And it was like a miracle. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. And within 30 days, I had quit my job and I went and I traveled back to my hometown and helped them out for a couple weeks at a time, just so that we could start to establish some routine. And then eventually now I just help them out a couple days a month because I want to. But girl, like we have to get to this point where yes, it has to be bad enough to make that like decision, but it's also all of the things that I had been working on up to that point that led me to having the courage, that led me to be willing to take the risks and bet on myself, right? And that's really what it comes down to for both of us. Like, yes, we can be in a place where it's so miserable that there's nothing we can do. But just like you, I don't want my clients to have to hit rock bottom before they are willing to make a big life-changing decision. And it doesn't even have to be life-changing. It could be the smallest little thing, but they feel empowered to do it. And when we can start making the smallest decisions, and all of a sudden the big decisions don't seem so scary, right?
Can you tell me more about that small decision, right? You're saying you built up
Mhm.
this security, but then your husband's like, I want, Mr. Stability, I want everything. And I can see
Mhm.
that for a lot of people,
Yeah.
like maybe they've hit that point where like, I can't do this anymore, but change is scary. Quitting my job is scary. Moving across the world is scary. Whatever that thing is scary. And they haven't built up that courage yet. So
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think that like really it comes down to what I call the foundations of success. So when you can build upon a foundation of these key pillars, all of a sudden decisions are going to start to click. All right. So I'm going to tell you these pillars for me are number one, the power of your choices. So the moment that we recognize, you guys, that we are not subject to life, that life is happening for us, and that nobody, like the moment that I realized that as I walked into this hospital in my full-time career, I looked around and it's like, huh, isn't this interesting? Nobody is holding a gun to my head, forcing me to show up. It is a decision for me to show up every day because this is the decision right now for me and my family that this is the place for me to be. But when you recognize that you are not powerless to situations outside of you, and the moment that you accept that you have an empowered decision, whether that be I'm going to make the decision to seek out different solutions, I'm going to have the decision to have a hard conversation, with my husband saying, "Oh my gosh, like this is not working for me," whatever the case may be. The moment that you decide that you are not subject to something, that you are not victim to something, the moment that you recognize that you get to choose your response every single moment, everything will shift because now all of a sudden, instead of disempowered, you are empowered. And I can get into the whole like quantum physics part of that. But the moment that you are in an empowered space, both thought and feeling, your energy in your vibration of your body in your biofield raises. And now all of a sudden, the ideas, the conversations, the people are going to start aligning with you because you're from an empowered place versus a disempowered place. So, number one is that recognition that you are not a victim and that at every single moment you get to choose to rise above your circumstances. Number two is building the confidence. Now, a lot of times this really does come from addressing any toxic thought patterns, right? So, what is the trash talk going on in my head? What are the limiting beliefs that I have picked up from my upbringing? Many times people don't realize that many of the belief systems that we have in which our brain uses as a construct for the way life works are developed before we're even 7 years old. So what did I learn by watching my parents without the the brain cognition level to be able to have context available to it. And I can get into that whole conversation for the next hour. But my point is that there's lots of reasons why we don't feel confident. And it might be like, hey, I've tried this before, it didn't work, so I must suck. Or, everybody else seems to have it figured out and I don't, so I must suck. And whatever the case may be, the moment that you shift into recognizing that you are worthy, that you are capable, that you can handle anything, things start to shift. You're willing to make decisions. You're willing to take risks. You're willing to, again, shift your energy into, oh my gosh, I really hope that you could possibly talk to me and maybe we can figure this out too. I need to tell you something. I believe in it. I think you'd be amazing for it. Different energy because I come from a place of confidence, right? The next one is connectedness. Now, this one is something that's different for a lot of different people, but for me, ultimately, the way I describe this is the connectedness between me and something bigger than me. And I believe that we are all part of this beautiful interconnection of energy and that there is a God that has given us the ability to co-create with him. And so when we recognize that, this is a kind of a really key piece to what I do, is recognizing that all of the weight of the world that I've been carrying on my shoulders, all of the responsibility. I was a breadwinner for my family. My husband's a teacher. Teachers should get paid more, right? So there's a lot of responsibility for me in this space. But the moment that I recognize, like, okay, breathe. I am not in this alone, that there is a divine order that is guiding and supporting me at all times. And that I believe that I have the ability, you have the ability, all of us have the ability to tap into our subconscious to be able to ask for divine guidance in even like yes, no questions. Sometimes people are entertained by this. Like one of the most famous inventors of all time is Thomas Edison, right? Thomas Edison, you guys used to have a practice every day where he sat in a chair and held a rock in his hand. Now, the reason he did this is because he wanted to get himself into a state of alpha brainwaves, and alpha brainwaves allow us to connect to the higher intelligence of all, the source intelligence of all. And that's how he was able to have these inventions that came out of nowhere. And so what he would do is he would sit in his chair and he would hold his rock, and his goal was to get to the brainwave that's just before sleep. And if he dropped his rock, it would wake him up because he didn't want to actually fall asleep. But his goal was to get to the theta so that he could open his consciousness up to divine guidance. All of us have that same opportunity because our subconscious is actually connected to the intelligence of all things. It's just a matter of, number one, are we willing to allow for that wisdom to come in? And number two, how do we learn to trust our own discernment? You can believe that you can pray to God and ask for his help, but do you believe in yourself enough to hear what he's saying and for you to actually trust to do that? And that's what I love teaching people, is that you don't have to do it alone, that there are ways to figure that out. The next one is courage. So if you have fear, and fear can be like obvious fears, right? Like I fear that I'm going to be making a fool of myself, or I fear that I might not be able to put food on my table if I quit my job. Those are legitimate conscious fears. Oftentimes we have subconscious fears that are below the level of our awareness. And this is so interesting, Marcy. So I have a process that I take my clients to that can actually take them with their subconscious to the moment that the limiting belief is formed. And then from that limiting belief, then we can like neutralize it energetically and then plant the seed of truth and then shift their belief system. Okay. But what's so fascinating is that in that process, I have been able to take people through, and depending on your belief systems, some of my clients have the acceptance that there are past lives that we've been through. Some of them have a belief construct that we work with that they recognize that we can actually inherit limiting beliefs and energy blocks from our ancestors. Okay. Regardless, I've had people have experiences where they literally, one example, she watched her parents when she was young and they were fighting and they were miserable. And she was little, she was like 5, and she's like, I want to go outside and play, but I feel like I have to be in here because I need to be miserable and angry. Okay. So now she's afraid of raising her prices because she is afraid of being happy. She's not worthy of being happy. She's not worthy of choosing herself over other. She's not able subconsciously to accept that it's okay for her not to be miserable and angry. So then she keeps making decisions that are consistent with that identity versus the other one. So there's hidden things. I've had other people who have taken themselves back through ancestors. They've literally been able to see themselves from their grandma's consciousness in her grandma's kitchen like decades ago, looking out the window at her daughter who happens to be this girl's mom. Unbelievable. But her grandma in her place had actually had an experience where her mom had passed and she was watching her daughter play. And she thought to myself, it's not fair that I can be happy when my mom wasn't able to watch me do this. And so she consistently made decisions that kept her in this unhappy, unworthiness of happiness space. And it's so what I'm saying, you guys, is that we have fears that could be something that are just hidden in your subconscious. And there might be fears that are hidden in these energetic lineages that can be passed on. And so it's really just recognizing not only how to look at fear differently and how to know consciously that you can handle whatever it is that's coming to you, but also recognizing that there might be some things that you can't see
Mhm.
that we can clear because that might be holding you back from courageousness. The sixth one, and there's only seven. So the sixth one is inconsistency. So that's the thing that holds people back. And again, these can be tied to these other things because you don't show up because you don't have the identity of somebody who's consistent, or you feel like you're disorganized, or you feel like you don't have the clarity. And so then you keep sabotaging yourself by not showing up. Right. And then the last one is I call it conquer. And this is really where we have this resiliency of like knowing our greater purpose and knowing the why and knowing that it's normal for things to just ebb and flow in life and business and that there's nothing wrong with you. And that when you can keep your true north and your impact at the front of this, then you can allow yourself to stay in an empowered, energetic state so that you can manifest and attract things versus letting your outside circumstances, your husband who doesn't understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, the market, the the saturated whatever, any of the stuff that could happen to any of us, you don't let it bother you. You're able to stay in neutral or higher because you've figured out how to create these foundations of success that allow for you to make your decisions based from an empowered place rather than a disempowered place where you feel like you're stuck or you feel like there's nothing that you can do or feeling like it's bound to fail and all the things. Does that make sense?
It does. I wanted to ask about, okay, so we have all these limiting beliefs or kind of blind spots, and I think that you would agree that it can be really helpful to have someone walk you through this, right? That's the
Yeah,
power of coaching, even just with your friend
yeah,
saying, "Hey, have
yeah,
you considered, working in small town hospitals?" And it's not that you couldn't have thought of that idea. It just
yeah.
you
Mhm.
didn't have the same, she didn't have the same constructs that you did,
Totally.
and she was able to
Yes.
generate that.
Yes.
So, is there something that people can do to kind of, because the first step in identity in fixing a change is
Oh,
knowing what
yeah.
the problem is. Is there
Yeah,
something they can
totally.
do if they're by themselves, if they don't have a coach or a trusted friend to work
Yeah,
through some of
a hundred,
these?
100%. So I think that the first thing when if we're talking specifically about decisions, okay, I want us to just take a moment and recognize that a dysregulated nervous system is going to prevent us from being in a conscious, logical place. And we are not going to be able to use the part of our brain that is going to allow for reasoning. If our emotional state and our nervous system is dysregulated, it means that we're stuck in fight or flight. And it means that our body is going to be releasing, different stress hormones and our heart's going to be racing and our stomachs and knots and our palms are sweaty. And I'm just going to tell you right now that if you are in that space, you're not going to be allowing yourself to get into this conscious space. So that's the first thing I would say is that you need to get your nervous system calm down. Okay. How does that work? And I'm sure, Marcy, you probably share with people all kinds of tips with this. These are some of the things that I do. So, breathing is huge. When you take big breaths in and big breaths out, you can actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system or the rest and digest part of your nervous system where that calms you down. Oftentimes, I will do something that is very similar to like 4-second breath in, 8-second breath out. It's that activation of your diaphragm as you're breathing out that really helps to set that nervous system back to neutral. Okay. Another really surprising one is putting cold water on your wrists. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Another one that we utilize is tapping.
Mm.
So, emotional freedom technique and tapping, what it does is it gets you back into focus. I actually have a software that I use with my clients that it analyzes 10 seconds of their voice. And then it can tell them not only what are their three emotions that are over being expressed right now and one that they've been pushing down, but it gives them a prescription of balancing musical tones and octaves that will actually neutralize that energetic state. So it's almost like noise canceling headphones work this way, where it's two opposing waves come to crash together in the ocean, they neutralize themselves. That's how this music works. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll say, I want you to do your voice recording and I want you to listen to your music for 5 minutes. And that by itself will just regulate it. And now I can get myself back into this state. So now I'm consciously able to have this process happen, right? I'm not from a fight or flight, traumatic place. I'm in a, okay, like, let's look at this. So then I ask myself, what am I actually afraid of? What am I actually afraid of? And sometimes it's just in the acknowledgement of it from a conscious place, not from a fight or flight place, but from a conscious place, like, huh, interesting. Isn't that interesting that this is what I'm afraid of? And when you can do that, you can start to rationalize it from a logical standpoint. So oftentimes what I'll do is I'll have my clients say to themselves, okay, what would be the worst case scenario that could happen here? Right? Worst case scenario. And let's just say, I'm gonna give this example from the girl who's like, I can't be happy. We were able to recognize that if I'm happy and not miserable and angry, then I'm going to be abandoned. And if I'm abandoned, then I'm going to die because I can't take care of myself. So it's really just like, if I'm happy, I'm going to die. That's what her subconscious told her. Okay. So we can take that and be like, all right, so am I going to die if let's say I'm afraid to go live on Facebook, or I'm afraid to start my podcast? What is the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is nobody listens to my podcast. Worst case scenario is somebody makes fun of me. Worst case scenario is, and then I think about it, it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to spontaneously combust. I'm not going to lose my house. Like the things that we catastrophize,
Yeah.
right? So we start to think about it like, okay, hold tight. And then I ask them, okay, let's just pretend like the worst case scenario happened. What would you do? Well, if nobody listened, I guess I would just know that that's not my jam. Or maybe I would just like adjust the messaging. Or let's say somebody made fun of me. Well, maybe they're just not aligned with me. And I just got to be okay with that. Like that's their shit, not mine, right? Like whatever the case may be, we get to say from a logical standpoint, what would I do if the worst case scenario happened? And what we do then from that place is that we decide that we can handle it.
Hmm.
And once I can handle it, okay, now I feel empowered again. Okay, so, okay, awesome. I can handle it. Now, sometimes that conscious part of us is still not enough. And this is where I'm going to ask you guys to just sit with me in the woo for a second. So I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher, I love the body, I love the brain, but there's a lot of quantum physics and a lot of brain science into this. I want you to, from this conscious place, have a conversation, whether it be out loud or in your brain, with the younger version of yourself. Because this fight or flight and this nervous system activation is really, there's something inside of you that doesn't feel safe. And so it's like, hey, LaChelle, you're okay. You're safe. What do you need right now to be safe? I just need to know that I have some people here to protect me and to love on me, even if this doesn't go good. Awesome. Okay, good. Good job, LaChelle. It's amazing what can happen from a conscious standpoint when we can soothe the inner self that's trying to keep us safe from the ego. And in the quantum physics space, there is no past, present, and future. They're just now.
Hmm.
And so in now, I actually get to heal the past and I get to influence the future based on this decision right now. And so those are some of the steps that I take my clients through or tell them to do on their own in order to work through some of this process together. And it can be super powerful. And some of the things that I do to take people through this whole like identifying limiting belief, even past life regression, you can do self-processing on if you're trained in this. And so
Mhm.
a lot of my clients will actually go through the certification program that I've paired with to get their own teaching on that so that they can process themselves through it so they're not dependent on anyone else. So that's
Mhm.
completely possible too, which is really cool.
Yeah, I do love that worst case scenario because a lot of times when you put these out loud, you're like, that's just
Mhm.
not going to happen. It's not going to kill me. I can move on from this. If no one
Yes.
ever hires me again, I can get another job doing something. Like there's
Yeah.
always that
Yeah.
solution. I'm wondering if it's that third piece that might be missing because I have tried this before
Yeah.
with a loved one and it ends up in that spiraling of yeah but yeah but yeah but and it just keeps going and there doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
that resolution or that
Yeah.
calming down of like this is
Yeah.
irrational. So
Yeah.
is that what you would say is kind of missing there, that sitting with that younger self
A
piece?
100%, because this is the thing. Like your reaction to this, whatever is happening. Okay, so let's just say that it is deciding to start a podcast. Okay. People start a podcast every single day. So it's possible. So why does it feel so scary and heavy to you? It's not because there's something wrong with you, friends. It's just because you are taking this representation and you're attaching meaning to it from some part of you that isn't healed from the past. It's been a trigger. So your emotional response to it is more exaggerated than somebody else who's like, yeah, I started a podcast yesterday. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with you. It's really just an acknowledging like where is the thing that is kind of hidden under the underneath that is possibly holding us back. Right. And so when we can start to give ourselves that grace to be like, okay, like I'm responding to something from the past in this exact moment now. And now that I at least know that, I'm like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me again. I just get to go on this fun adventure and this treasure hunt to figure out what the heck, where did that come from? And it's so cool because when we can go on that treasure hunt and when we can discover where that's coming from and we actually get it to the root, that's what I love it because I imagine I'm plucking it out like the weed it is,
Mhm.
and then I can plant flowers over it, right?
Yeah.
But I just like so oftentimes we think there's something wrong with us if it's hard, or we think that there's something wrong with us if we're avoiding things or avoiding hard conversations or avoiding taking the next step. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just responding to something that's not visible. And it's
Mhm.
just a matter of like not shaming yourself, not putting yourself down, but just being like, huh, isn't this interesting? Isn't this interesting? This is not how I thought I was going to react. Huh. I wonder what that's about. And just play with it. Have fun with it. Don't take yourself so stinking seriously. Give yourself some grace and be like, all right, let's go on this treasure hunt and figure this out. And then it doesn't feel so heavy anymore. It doesn't feel like so much freaking pressure. And it just feels lighter and there it can be easy and it can be fun and it can be full of joy if we just allow ourselves to have fun on the journey of figuring out where that damn weed is and plucking it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this has been so much fun. I feel like I could pick your brain for forever. It's just it's just such a wealth of knowledge, and I don't want to overwhelm anybody. I want to be able to take this and put things into action right now. So, what
Yeah.
would you say if people are listening and they're like, okay, this is it. I'm identifying there's probably some fears in here, some limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
What are either five things they can go do right now, or something they can do in 5 minutes to start acting on this today, right
Yeah,
now?
100%. So I love the fact that I got to give people this, like, what do you do? So we kind of already did that, which is really
Right.
great. So I'm going to encourage all of you guys to just follow the steps that we've already talked about for sure. The next thing that like a thing that I could absolutely tell you to do is embrace if any of the seven like things that I mentioned before are resonating with you. The very first one is owning your power,
Mm.
recognizing that you get to at any moment in time leverage the power of now to heal the past and the future because you are not subject to or victim to it. You get to choose. So I'm going to ask right now that you are deciding right now to take power over your life, period. Right. And then the other thing that I would say, Marcy, that's been super helpful with myself and my clients is to ask yourself, what would the future version of yourself do? A future version of yourself that's healed and confident and powerful and courageous and consistent and all the things. Like if I want to have a multi-million dollar business, what does she look like? What would she do in the situation? So would she start a podcast? Yeah. Would she be afraid of it? Nope. Who would she contact to get her started? Awesome. So when we can step into her it's going to help us to channel that. And again, in the quantum space, you guys, there is no past, present, or future. She already exists. The future version of you is here already, allowing you to listen to her guidance or his guidance if you're willing to let yourself do that and trust it. Okay. And so, a way that you can tap into that as well is visualization, because our brain has these parts in our brain called mirror neurons that cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So you can either use those mirror neurons to your detriment by imagining the worst case scenario and getting yourself all activated and worked up, or you can use that imagination to create in your mind's eye what you want to see happen, who you are at that $1 million level, who you are at the confidence level, and visualize what she feels like. How does she speak? How does she feel? How does she dress? How does she get up in the morning? How does she make decisions? All of that stuff. And you visualize it, you taste it, you see it, you smell it, you touch it, and you allow it to be ingrained in you. And your brain then will start to accept that as who you are. And guess what? You're going to start making decisions from that person versus the disempowered little girl that's been holding you back this whole time.
Love it. That's just, I don't even, it wraps it up so perfectly. I love the acting as if, and if people are just listening to this, I'm going to encourage you to go watch this on YouTube too, because Dr. LaChelle has just such great energy. You can tell that she is acting as if she is being that person that she wants to be. And it's just been so much fun having you here. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you wanted, any last minute piece that you want to throw in? Have we covered everything today, you think?
I just absolutely am so grateful and honored. And Marcy, I am happy. I do. If your clients would like another tool, I
Yes.
do have access to that software that you can do a 10-second voice submission, and then it gives you like some music to listen to. And I would be happy to offer your audience a very significant discount, special for like $25. You guys can get your own analysis, and I'd be happy to give you the link for that so that they can actually have a tangible tool to take with them to add to the arsenal that they already have. So
That sounds perfect. I completely forgot about that tool. And as you're saying this, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, that was so fascinating to talk about how this affects our brainwaves. It makes total sense. Where can people find you?
So I have a name that's hard to pronounce, but I'm easy to find. So I'm at LaChelle Wieme everywhere. So Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel is at LaChelle Wieme. I am at LaChelleWieme.com. So as long as you can go to the show notes and spell it correctly, you guys can find me wherever you're looking for me. Simple and easy. So thank you so much for that opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes. The links will be below, as well as that link to the voice recording. Dr. LaChelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.